Hi there, and welcome back to Travelling Tonka, and welcome to this short 2-day trip into Uruguay, where we'll be visiting Punta del Este and Montevideo. So first up, we find ourselves in Punta del Este, and this is actually the view from our balcony in the Hotel Concord, what we stayed at, right on the peninsula. As you can see in the background, the weather is shocking. It's just rained and rained and rained. So this was us starting on our South American journey. We'd come from Heathrow in England via Madrid into Montevideo Airport, where we hired a car out and drove for approximately 2 hours to get to Punta del Este. So you can imagine our disappointment when we were greeted by this horrendous weather, which actually doesn't look as bad as what it actually is, but it's just constantly raining. It was raining all the time when we got there, but you know, we wanted to visit this supposed beautiful part of the world, but unfortunately we didn't get to experience that side of it. Just to let you know that the car hire was actually really affordable. We paid about £60 for 2 days hire, and that was from the airport, but it was actually dropping it off in Montevideo also, so that made a difference because that's where we was going to next, and we were actually picking up the ferry to Buenos Aires from there as well, so leaving the car in the actual capital was a lot easier, so that was a good price for a start. What you're about to see, if you've ever looked into this area before, because this is one of the most popular beaches in Punta del Este, it's Playa Brava. The hand just to the right of you is one of the most famous monuments in this area. I mean, again, it doesn't look brilliant because the weather wasn't great, but it's called La Mano, which means the hand in Spanish. Where we were staying, we found it very walkable to get to most places from down at the peninsula, which you can walk all the way around, which I'll show you later, but also into the main town. The coastline goes on for a long way. I mean, this section didn't have as many of the beach bars and things like that, but we did have a look on the other side, and there's loads along there. And again, I can imagine in the summertime it is proper buzzing along there. It probably is just a really nice area. So this is the harbour here, where there's loads and loads of nice yachts and boats and stuff in this bit here. There wasn't as many there, again, because this is winter time. This is July, the middle of July actually. This is just the hotel. This is the outside of it. It doesn't look amazing from there, but it was actually alright. And for £45 a night, where it is situated is an absolute bargain. We decided to get up really early, hence why it's a little bit dark in this morning, and have a walk around the whole of the peninsula. It was so quiet. I mean, again, I can imagine this is probably packed full of people in the summertime, but there was literally nobody around. But it was still nice to go and see what it would actually be like. But we just started for a walk around here and around the harbour. I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but Punta del Este and Uruguay as a whole is probably regarded as the more expensive places in South America to visit. Yeah, I did notice that it was more pricey than what I was expecting, but it's still way cheaper than being in the UK. But after visiting all the other places on our trip in South America, we did realise that Punta del Este was the most expensive for food and drinks. I'd done a lot of research into visiting this area, so we just tried to get because we didn't have a long time, we sort of had the day we got there and the rest of this day to have a look around and experience it. But about half an hour away, there's also a really nice place called Jose Ignacio, which is another beach sort of town resort, which is visited quite often, and I hear lots about it. We didn't get a chance to do it, but I've looked at it, and it actually looks really good, so that's something to think about if you're ever in this area. Another thing that gets asked quite often is sort of like the safety of walking around. Bear in mind, this was our first time over this side of the world, and this was our first experience. Uruguay was the first place that we hit, and Punta del Este. We literally walked around in the morning, we walked around at night and the daytime, and I couldn't see where there'd be any issues with any safety, even if you was a solo traveller or anything like that. It just did not seem like that sort of place. After walking around here for quite some time, because it does take a while, we probably spent about an hour walking around the whole of the peninsula and back up to where we were staying, but it was just so nice to be surrounded by the ocean. It's just so calming. Even now, I mean, the seas were a little bit rough in places, but you can see, again, if sunshine was out, it would be absolutely stunning. In regards to communication, we did find that English wasn't massively spoken. People can obviously get by with their broken English, the same as we have basic Spanish, which I would recommend that you have anywhere you go around here, but you definitely would have need a little bit, because even when we went into the restaurants, they didn't understand us you know, you can point at pictures and get a rough idea from the menus, but it is be so much more helpful if you have some form of Spanish. The currency here in Uruguay is the Uruguayan pesos, by the way, and I picked up a bit of currency for every country that we were going to on this trip anyway prior, but because it's always easier to have a bit of cash with you, because we were told that you can't use card in a lot of places and it's difficult. It really isn't, even here and everywhere else. Eventually when we did go on the trip, we realised that you can pay in card now, so it does help, but it is definitely always handy to have cash with you. Again, like most of the other South American countries, they do actually accept dollars as well if you have them, and even euros sometimes. On walking around though, we did realise that actually there's probably not a lot of other places to go other than if you were to go to the beach bars, restaurants, maybe clubs in the area as well. But outside of that, touristically, I don't know if there's too much else to do here. But you know, if you were coming here, you probably would be just coming for the sunshine anyway. I mean, as you can see walking around here anyway, there's all these, they look like holiday homes. There's nobody in any of them by the looks of it. I mean, we didn't bump into anyone, or hardly anyone, only people walking their dogs on this whole walk around this area. So, like I say, if they're holiday homes or Airbnbs for rental in the summer, it will be full, I would imagine, and there'll be people everywhere. Punta del Este was a nice place to start on our South American trip, I think, though, because the people were nice. It's generally known as a really safe area, and it was quiet, so it just gave us a chance to sort of get into everything before we started with the craziness of visiting Argentina, Brazil and Paraguay. So I would recommend coming here in the summer, but it was still nice to do it anyway. So after spending our sort of day and a half in Punta del Este, we took the drive onwards towards Montevideo, but we did find somewhere to stop on the way, and we're about to get there very soon, and it's in Punta Ballena. The reason to come here wasn't just for this viewpoint here. There is actually a place called Casa Pueblo, which I'll show you shortly. As I'm sure you can hear in the background, it was so windy here, but you can probably see it's so remote. It just felt like we was in the middle of nowhere, just surrounded by the ocean. But the views are absolutely stunning from here and down the rock faces and that. I mean, again, I can imagine a lot of people come here to have a look, but given the time of the year it was, there was just us and a couple of other cars there to experience this area. This is only a 20-minute drive from Punta del Este, so we didn't get very far on our route to Montevideo, but it was a place to stop off on the way because we wanted to visit this Casa Pueblo. But yeah, it was just nice and to experience this and just sort of take a bit of time out and have a look around and have a wander down the cliffs. As you can see, with the continuing theme of the darkness in the weather, it wasn't actually raining here, which was a bonus, but it just looks so dark and gloomy. But I guess most people get to see all this in the sunshine, so this is a different take on what it's like to visit these areas. Just in the distance over there is a little coastline with another beach area. I don't know how popular that is because that didn't really come up on any of the searches I had, but I'm guessing that's another town or resort area where you can come and visit in the summertime. As you saw from the start of the video as well, in the car we were driving along the coastline. Coming into Punta del Este, we took the coastal route all the way along, literally along the front, and visited some of the towns where in the summer it would be a totally different place, but it felt like a ghost town. It was quite eerie actually driving around there. There's just nobody about, nobody in the buildings or anything like that, no one on the beaches, but it was just sort of nice to get an idea and a feel for the place. So after staying here for a little while and just having a look around, we headed up to Casa Pueblo, where we're about to come to now. Now, I had no idea what to expect when we came here. I just saw this as a tourist attraction on one of the apps that I use, and so we thought we'd just have a little ride up there and have a look at it. But as you can see, it is absolutely stunning. It is one of Uruguay's most unique cultural and architectural attractions. So it was originally designed by a Uruguayan artist called Carlos Villario. He used to work here, use it as a workshop, and just design many different things in artists. He did paintings, ceramics, sculptures, and this whole building reflects his work. But today it is now a museum. This trip we didn't actually book online. We usually use the apps like Viator, Get Your Guide or something like that, but we actually just went to the door because it was very quiet and paid at the entrance. I think it was about $15 per person. I can't remember exactly how much that is in Uruguayan pesos, but I know we used dollars for this. So I mean, that you can spend as long as you like there, and you just sort of walk around. It is set out like a museum inside, as you'll see in a little bit. But looking on the outside, certain parts of this you can actually stay here as a hotel, but it is very expensive to do so. But as you can see, you get treated to some great views of the ocean and get to stay in these unique villa type places with their own little pools on the outside of them, and that it's just, there probably isn't many places like this. At first glance, when you're looking around, everything looks like it's all pristine and nice, but it is a little bit run down in places. But I think that is probably due to the weather conditions, because we're experiencing this in the winter, and it probably gets beaten by the constant rain and the ocean and cold whatever. So I can understand that it probably does, it's not like it is in the sunshine all the time. It was just actually nice to have a walk around there, and you can, I didn't think we'd be able to get access to all parts, but you can actually get around a lot of the parts. You can actually see inside what it is like if you were staying in one of the villas and what they're like on the way around. So that was actually really nice. I thought it'd be a bit more restricted. And then inside there's videos playing that give you the history of the artist himself and how this place become in there. It is in English also, so you can actually take it, and if you can't read Spanish that fast. After looking around in here, also there is a really big sort of souvenir shop where you can buy things. There is definitely some things of interest to purchase, but we're low on luggage space, so obviously we wouldn't have taken anything home. But it's nice to have the option anyway. And also they have a really nice, they actually have a restaurant that's on the outside, but I'm guessing that's just for the summertime, obviously when the weather's brilliant and looking out to the ocean. But there's a nice little cafe inside where you could get food and drinks in there, so we stopped there before we left, and that was really nice and reasonably priced, and the people were really friendly in there as well, and they spoke English, so that made it all very easy. So after the 2-hour drive, we arrive in Montevideo, and this is the last stop on our trip in Uruguay before we take the ferry the next day across to Buenos Aires, which is a very handy trip to do because it's only sort of 1 hour 30 to 1 hour 45 on the ferry. It's a little bit expensive, the one we took. I think it was around about £90 per person, but there is another one you can do that is, you go down to another area and go across, which is a bit cheaper, but there's more travelling involved in that. So if you're in Montevideo, I suggest taking the fast ferry straight into Buenos Aires port. Now I do apologise for my lack of footage for Montevideo. As you'll see in some of the other videos I've done from South America, I had some severely corrupted footage, and Montevideo took the worst of it. So I have got bits walking around sort of the main areas of the city, but some of the others just were not good enough to post. You can probably tell from the vibe of the place already, though, this is a very different place from Punta Del Este. So this is the capital, so obviously it will have a capital feel to it. We did stay in an area which was about 20 minutes from here, so it was just on the outside, but even there, you know, in the city, it still felt safe and it still felt okay to walk from there into here. I was actually expecting it to be a hell of a lot busier, sort of walking around the city, but it was just quiet again. I mean, I'm guessing this is because it's winter, people probably stay in, or they even go elsewhere, but there wasn't that many people around for a capital city centre. One thing I did notice in the difference between the two places that we had been, it was definitely a lot cheaper in the capital, which is not usually the case, but it was way more affordable for you know, your budget-friendly travelling, and the restaurants were cheaper, the drinks were cheaper. Now again, this place probably looks totally different in the summertime because it's surrounded by water, and there is beaches here to visit as well. Not as many as where we were before, but it still has access to that. So you can come here and do the same thing in Montevideo, but we just didn't get that experience. One, because it's the wrong season, but two, the weather was just bad the whole time we were there. But that said, it was still nice to go over here and even go into Uruguay just to get a feel for the place, because now we know next time that we come to this side of the world we can visit it, and we sort of know a bit about it and know where to go, and I'm sure it'll be way more enjoyable in the summertime. One thing I did notice that was a little bit strange for a capital city was a lot of places were shutting up quite early. I mean, 6 to 7 p.m, which is very unusual. We tried to get food when we first turned up in this sort of place where everyone said to go, like the food market, but it was shut down. It was all closed and quiet by that time, and as you can see by the lack of people on the streets, you can probably see that. So as we leave Uruguay and head to Buenos Aires on the ferry, you can't see much because we was in the lower bit and the windows are blocked out, but you can see from the outside. It was a nice trip over, quite smooth actually, but yeah, I would definitely be back to visit Uruguay when we're over this side of the world, but that is our very short experience of it so far, and I hope you enjoyed our quick look into it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next ones. So until then, bye for now.